I'm Stacy, and this is the For Bricks and Giggles YouTube channel. A few months ago, I made a video about a list of Lego pieces that used to be rare, but are now really easy and common and usually inexpensive to get. And oddly enough, that was one of my most watched videos I've ever created. So I decided to do a part 2 to that video. About half of these are ones that I came up with that I had just noticed, and the other half came from comments from that previous video. So this will be another list of 10 parts that for the most part look pretty common, but used to be valuable or rare, and today really aren't anymore because Lego brought them back after sometimes decades since their original release. So let's get started. First up, we have part number 3069, which is a 1x2 tile, specifically in the color dark green. This was only found in a couple sets in 2005 and 2006. The Clone Turbo Tank set 7261, which was released twice, and then another set in 2010, Ferocious Creatures set 5868. I don't know the exact pricing, but I'm pretty sure you could sell that piece for at least a couple of dollars before they re-released it. After 2010, it wasn't released in another set until 2022. And between 2022 and 2024, it's been released now in about 10 more additional sets. And you can get it for as little as 6 cents a piece now on BrickLink in the US. Next up, we have part number 4740, which is a 2x2 dish piece in the color translucent yellow. That piece was only released in 3 sets in the 80s. I think they were all classic space, and then there were 2 service packs that also contained it in the 80s and early 90s. And then even though that's a super common color and a super common piece, it was not seen again until 2023 in the Star Wars Yavin 4 Rebel base. I also recently stocked up on these from Pick-a-Brick. I think currently on BrickLink you can get this piece for around 30 cents as a starting price in the US, but I'm pretty sure I paid less than that on Pick-a-Brick. Obviously for Pick-a-Brick, unless it's a bestseller, you're gonna have to wait about 6 weeks to get it, but I feel like maybe they were around 10 cents there. I don't know what the original price of that piece was before it was re-released, but considering it was only found in classic space sets from the 80s and early 90s, I would imagine it was probably a fairly pricey piece, especially since it's a translucent color, which tends to be a little more fragile of a piece, but now you can get it for less than 50 cents in most cases. So definitely on the cheaper side. I'll definitely have to try and stock up on more of them if they don't end up releasing it in any more sets. Next up, we have one that I really found interesting from the comments from my last video, and that's part number 3833, which is a construction helmet in the color yellow. I never really thought about it. I had seen that piece in red and black pretty consistently, but I do think when you think about construction hard hats, you think about them being in the color yellow, and so I didn't realize that that used to be a very rare piece. It was found in 2 train sets in the 70s, set 166 and 167, so 3-digit sets, which both were released in 1978. Again, I don't know what the original price was for this piece on BrickLink or other reselling marketplaces. I heard rumors of it being around $30, I believe, but I don't know that for sure. But they did bring it back in around a dozen sets between 2011 and 2015, and now you can get it for as little as 12 cents on BrickLink in the US. Now, it has been almost a decade since they last released it, so who knows if they'll bring it back again in the future. I don't currently have any in my collection. I think I need to add one now that I know that that piece even exists. Next up, we have part number 6636, which is a 1x6 tile in the color green. It looks like it should be a super common piece, but it was only ever released in 1 set in 2009. Twin Extreme RC set 8184. It's funny because this piece was mentioned in the part 1 of this video, but I also recently found myself wanting this piece for the mock I'm working on, and I ended up just opting to use a 1x4 and a 1x2 tile together instead of specifically going out to buy it, but I had no idea it was originally just released in 1 set ever. But it was just brought back this year in 2024 in 3 additional sets. So now you can get it for as little as 40 cents on BrickLink in the US. Next up is a piece that originally came in one of my favorite Harry Potter sets, and that's part number 3024, which is a 1x1 plate in the color sand blue. This piece was originally only released in the 2003 set Nocturne Alley set 4720. And of course, you know that's a tiny piece that probably went missing pretty easily, so I'm sure it had a decent resale price on BrickLink. They have now brought it back though, and it's been released in 5 additional sets between 2023 and 2024. And when I checked on BrickLink, you could get this part for as little as 7 cents a piece and buy it in bulk from multiple resellers in the US. So very little market value today. Next up, we have part number 41539, which is an 8x8 plate in the color dark red. This piece also comes from one of my favorite childhood sets. Set 8877, Vladek's Dark Fortress from 2005. Several months ago I had a partial of that set that I parted out on BrickLink, and that's actually how I discovered this piece. I feel like dark red pieces have become super common in current LEGO, but back in 2005 I felt like it was a little more rare of a color, which is one of the reasons I was actually drawn to that set. That piece has now been released in 3 additional sets between 2020 and 2023, and you can get that part for as little as 49 cents a piece on BrickLink in the US. I feel like before the re-release you probably could have gotten a couple dollars for that piece, but there is also a big variation within dark red pieces depending on what year they were released, so sometimes it can be difficult to color match for that one. So that would probably be the only drawback between an original of that part or a more current reproduction. I've also had a lot of trouble with dark red pieces being brittle. I don't know if that's just me personally or if other people have experienced that, so that could also affect the price. Up next, we have part number 43888, which is a pillar piece, but specifically in the color dark blue. This piece was released in 3 sets between 2006 and 2007, the Chum Bucket, the Cafe Corner, and a Bionicle set, which I'm going to write on the screen so I don't mispronounce it. I know this piece was pretty valuable even though it was released in 3 different sets, but specifically because people would try to part together the Cafe Corner, I know that made that part valuable. It was, however, just brought back in 2024 in a set called the Wolf Mask Shadow Dojo, set 71813. This part is slightly more valuable than most of the parts I'm talking about in this list, but definitely not on the level of value it used to have, but I could find it for as little as $1.75 on BrickLink in the US. We'll see if that part continues to decrease in price, if they release it in more sets, and if you're holding on to a ton of them because they were valuable, you might want to try and sell them as soon as possible, because in a lot of cases when LEGO brings a part back in a color, they're gonna try and use it in multiple sets to make it worth the time and money of production. Obviously, I don't know anything specific, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they start putting it in more sets. It's a super useful piece, and dark blue is a pretty common color nowadays. Next up, we have a piece that I actually mentioned in the part 1 of this video, but in a different color, and that's part 4216, which is a 1x2 brick with a channel running through it, but in the color black. I mentioned it in the previous video in the color yellow, but I happened to discover that the color black was also brought back in recent years. Originally, this piece was released in a handful of great classic town sets in the 80s, car repair shop, actually the cargo center behind me, a fire station, and a police station. Again, all 80s sets. And then they didn't release it in a set again until 2019, which they actually released it in 2 sets that year. The 1989 Batmobile and a Chinese Lunar New Year set called Dragon Dance. So now you can get that piece for as little as 30 cents on BrickLink in the US. Next up, we have a piece that actually interlocks with the previous piece, and that's part 4218, a garage door, also in the color black. Originally, that piece was only released in 1 set in 1986, which was set 6386, the Police Command Base, which a garage door in the color black you would think would be an incredibly common piece, so it's crazy that it only ended up in 1 set in the 80s. They did, however, eventually bring it back in 2010, and since 2010, it's been released in 5 sets, the last of which was released in 2018. I'm super grateful that the garage door is still a piece LEGO produces. It's one of my all-time favorite pieces, and I'm hopeful that they might bring that piece back in the color black again in the future. But until then, you can still get that part for super cheap, being as little as 10 cents a piece on BrickLink in the US. The last piece I have on this list is one that I found probably to be the most interesting. Someone had left this piece in the comments of my previous video on this topic, and I'm glad they did because I had no idea. And that's part number 47996, which is a rigging piece in the color light bluish gray. So originally, that piece was only released in the 2007 Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon. And according to the person who commented this, that part was going for around $100. I personally never saw that. That is just what the commenter said. That's just what I'm being told. I never witnessed that piece being that expensive, but I didn't get on BrickLink until 2017, and that's right around the time the piece was re-released. So they did bring it back in 2017 for the remake of the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon, which I believe is still the current one on the market today, set 75192. But you can also get that piece on Pick-a-Brick currently, and it's actually cheaper to buy it from Pick-a-Brick than it is to buy it on BrickLink. And it's only $2.25 on Pick-a-Brick right now. So definitely lost 98% of its value with the re-release. Now, when I made part 1 of this video, some people, I think, misunderstood why I was making this video. I don't know if they thought I was encouraging people to be resellers or to hold parts because of their value, something like that. I'm not sure. That was never my intent. I am a reseller, and even I don't care at all when LEGO brings parts back. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's super fun to sell a teeny tiny piece of plastic for a lot of money. It's a lot of fun to go through bulk lots and find parts that are rare. It's like every day is a treasure hunt, but that's part of the game, and part of the fun is trying to sell parts before they lose value, or discovering parts that you never knew were rare that might just look like ordinary pieces. And that's why I have remained a reseller for so many years. So I would love it if LEGO was accessible price-wise for everyone. Honestly, that's the top goal. But because the market exists, I think there will always be pieces that are rare and expensive unless LEGO eventually brings back every piece in every color that's ever existed, which I just don't think is probably going to be the case. So I love getting to learn new stuff like this all the time, either through comments or my own research. And one of my ultimate favorite things is finding pieces that look very inexpensive and then discovering they're actually super valuable. That's happened so many times over the last 6+ years I've been on BrickLink, but then I get to come up with secondary uses for that information by creating videos like this for you all. So I hope you found some portion of this entertaining or useful, or just a new random fact to hold in your head, because who doesn't need more of those? So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. And if you're interested in extra videos and content, check out the membership program starting at only 99 cents a month. There are already 55 episodes available. See you all next time.